Welcome to Archery Country Podcast. Welcome back to Archery Country Podcast. This is your host, Wade, as we're saying hello to everybody. And it's a beautiful Friday here in Rogers, Minnesota. We're sitting down with Mr. Dan Block, manager of our store here in Rogers. And on the other side of things, we have one of the awesome design engineers from Mathews, Mr. John Scovil. He's over in Sparta as we speak. How you doing today, John?
Good. How about both of you guys?
We're doing good.
Groovy.
Just going through the motions here in February. Just
get past this month and then we're golden.
Yeah. This is the get a lot done month.
Yeah.
Get a lot done. And every time that doorbell rings, it looks like a flag on an ice fishing tip-up goes up. All of us, our eyes and ears perked up. But we're having fun, and we did this on purpose. Today we're talking about Mathews Archery, the new release for 2023. Usually we'll do this back in end of November, December, but we decided to let the bow and social media and Mathews do their part, and then we're going to come back in. And we got John. Last year we talked to Mark, last couple of years, Mark, and then before that we talked to some of your pro shooters. But this year we wanted to get like the nitty gritty. We wanted to get inside of an engineer's head. And there's some things, I'm just going to put a disclaimer out there for the listeners. There's some things that John cannot talk about. And you have to respect that. There's some questions that I'm going to ask him, then there's going to be a void. And the reason being is some of those questions are patents and there's things going on. And so just respect that as a listener. But John, we're super happy to have you on. This is the first time that we've had you on a podcast, but you and I have been talking in the past. If you wouldn't mind, for our listeners, a little history, a little rewind, I guess you could say, when you came about to Mathews, what your background is, where you went to school, and, of course, everyone likes to hear about your hunting and where you come from that. So take us on a little ride.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to chat with you guys and share as much as I can. Like you said, there'll be some things you'll ask, but that's your job. You got to ask it, and my job is to not share too much. So we'll do as best we can. But I've been at Mathews for just over 5 years now. I started here straight out of college. I got super fortunate, super lucky to get my foot in the door at the perfect time. You know, it's a really small, tight-knit team here, and there's a lot of people who would love an opportunity here, and it's hard to get. And I just talked to the right person at the right time, and they happened to be hiring. So straight out of school, I got my dream job and been able to work and grow here and learn a ton from Matt and Mark, who you mentioned, and the team here. And it's been awesome. You know, it's pretty cool every day getting to work on something you're really passionate about and something that excites a lot of people and a lot of like-minded people. So I'll try not to make this too long-winded of an answer, but I started as a test engineer, which as a young kid right out of college sounds pretty awesome, right? You get to test things and break things and test competitors' products and Mathews products and get your hands on everything and learn a ton. And, you know, it's pretty awesome to have free range when you give me a bow and say, tear this thing apart and figure it out, and, you know, shooting crossbows and other bows and learning how things work. And that role kind of developed into this design engineering role that I'm at now. And, you know, kind of takes the testing to the extreme where you actually get to test the products that you're working on and designing day to day. So it's a super awesome company to be at. It's fun every day. You never know. You know, we were talking just briefly here before we got started about, you know, Matt McPherson. He's still, you know, super involved. He's hands-on, and you never know what ideas he's going to come up with. So every day he comes up here with something new, and we just got to adapt and figure out how to make it work. So it's new crazy ideas develop pretty quick around here, and it's a fun time to be an engineer for sure, because you get to engineer without boundaries. Really, there's nothing outside the box that we're not willing to try. So it's a pretty awesome place, and I feel pretty fortunate. And I feel pretty fortunate to be able to use these products on things I like to do too. You know, I had the best fall of my life this year. I started in on the Hall Road in Alaska on a caribou hunt DIY with my dad and uncle and brother. I killed not a giant caribou, but I killed a caribou, which for a Midwest boy is pretty good. I was pretty excited.
Yeah, any caribou.
Yeah, I was pumped, man. It's if you ever get a chance to do it, I recommend doing it. It's hard. It's not easy. But it's different than anything else you'll ever do. Did that, and I came back to work for a couple weeks, and then headed out to New Mexico on an elk hunt and killed my first ever bull elk there. So it was just off to an amazing start. And when I came back, and on the second weekend of the whitetail season here in Wisconsin, I killed a 141-inch 8-point, which is the biggest 8 I've ever killed, and my second biggest buck to date.
That's a stud.
It was a heck of a year. That was all at the Phase 4, before it was launched. So.
And that's, I was going to ask you, 2 things. First, you guys already seen the pictures that John is sending us. Winked right there. we decided to go with his trophy photos rather than him with a pocket protector and a pair of glasses. But quick question: How hard is it when you have your dad and your brothers or your family members, and then you go, I don't know if you're with an outfitter, but you're around people off and on. Like, yeah. How hard is that you have to keep your bow in a case? You can't really is everybody got to be on board? You got to be super careful about that. Cause you guys do, we do the proving ground videos, obviously. And those are shot way before release, but personally, we don't really talk to anybody that has to deal with that. Is it super hard? Is it inconvenient?
It's not super hard. It's a little inconvenient, but it's mostly just staying vigilant on that, making sure people know, the people I'm with know that it's a new product. They know, hey, don't ask too many questions. You'll find out eventually. And I'm just really vigilant on no pictures from anyone else's phone except for my own. When I flew to Alaska, I had limbs without limb graphics on them still. Obviously there was the resistance phase damping in there, but I figured I'm the first one out of the building with this bow. I'm going to make sure that at least the name doesn't leak for me, and I'm going to keep it locked. And, I was fortunate enough to kill my caribou on the first day. So I had it, I flew with it through the airport. I had it out in Alaska for 1 day, shot, and I was fortunate to kill my caribou, and then I tucked it away in the case for the rest of the week and helped everybody else hunt. So it's, there's definitely some times where you're like, hey, can you delete that picture off your phone quick?
Yeah. That's what, because you want to recap the memory. And if you're a social media guru or not, you're like, okay, now I this is all banked. No one's iCloud can be close to mine. We're not going to share,
Yeah.
It's not that it would be stressful, because I assume you had the bridge lock stabs, and of course you said your limbs were dead, but you're like, for me, when we're hunting the internet, of course everything's blurred out, and you're the pro hunters and the guys that we see all the time, and gals, they're getting really good at just not taking pictures with the bow. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden release date and the same picture you see, and you're like, oh yeah, there it is. Right. There it is.
Yeah.
I always wondered how hard that was.
It's amazing how many people find something that you don't even notice in your own photo. I don't even send photos internally to people who work here with the bow before it's launched, because you never know. I got one quick memory. My first year working here, I got the bow, maybe a week or 2 before launch. So not that early, but I killed a whitetail with it. And I sent a picture to my mom. And my mom was, proud mother. She wanted to post it on Facebook. And I was like, no, Mom, please don't. Please don't. And thankfully saved it, but it's always the joke around here is, we don't want anyone to leak it, but who's going to be the one to leak it? Because you get it in enough people's hands, and unfortunately, someone gets a picture and it gets shared to the wrong spot.
Mm-hmm.
We've done pretty good about it, but there always seems to be a little.
Well, and the thing is, like we have Jake, our owner, he gets to go down and visit with you guys in house, and of course, like we get bows prior. I got granted the opportunity to do a video way before anybody knew. And it's super what customers don't understand is we got good customers come in and it'll be a month and a half before and they're like, oh, what is it?
Well, 6 months before.
Yeah. And you're like, seriously, I do not know.
Yeah.
And they act like we have it in the back room or something.
Right. And you're like, no, it's like the reps don't come around. They don't give us a preview. Like it's seriously on November 15th or whatever day it is that morning, our alarms are going off at midnight or 8 o'clock when the website releases it. Now this year
It was a little bit different.
it was different for me, but in the same sense, like Dan's one of my best friends in the world. And he knows the game. He's like, I'm not even going to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
It says, we'll just talk Tuesday. And I'm like, thank you. Thank God. Because, him and Jake are the only ones besides our videographer, which Nate did it with all the bow releases. So I bet it was extremely hard for him. But it's a different game.
Even internally here, guys, our sales reps are really good, and they're really good about not asking the engineering and marketing team because it's in their best interest to not know too, because then when you got shops calling and consumers calling, hey, what's the new product? They can honestly say, I don't know. Up until a little bit before launch, they really don't know too much about it.
And that's the easiest way to do it.
Yep.
That's the easiest way to do it. And that's the only way to do it, honestly. But
right.
All right, let's get to the meat and potatoes. This year in 2023, thank you for your history on that. Congratulations on your fall. Pictures look good. This year we changed. It's called a Phase 4. We have a 29-inch model, same as last year, and a 33, same as last year as far as axle to axle. But the biggest thing in archery with it's a swear word in the pro shops. People talk on archery talk. You have social media, and everyone's like, well, they didn't change anything. They would not be in business. You would not be sitting here talking to me if you guys did not change anything. There wouldn't be an awesome engineering team. You guys are already busting butt for next year. Like, this is a 365-day passion, let alone an income. But so, and then you guys also released what we call an image, which we're going to kind of save that and talk a little bit. That is a 29 riser, but we've different deflection, different limbs. It doesn't have the phase, resistance phase dampening limb on the image, but it's meant for lower poundage, keeping older generations in a straight bow, and of course your ladies and your children that want a high performance, phenomenal. It has been a huge hit this year. Bow it maxes out at 50 pounds. But we'll talk about the image in a little bit. First and foremost, the resistance phase dampening. That's when people pick this bow up. If it doesn't have a set of stabs on it already, there's a black line that runs through each limb, and it's not just 2 limbs on top and 2 limbs on bottom. It's 4. Take us down what that is, how it came about, if you're whatever you can and can't tell us, and why it is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll start, Wade. I think me and you talked, right before launch about what you just hit the nail on the head with is there's actually 8 limbs, not 4, right? When you first look at it, you're like, is there just a piece of rubber, glued to the top and bottom of this? But it is actually limb, rubber, limb on every spot where traditionally there'd be 4, and now we have 8 limbs. So the idea came a while ago from Matt, and it just wasn't really feasible or possible with manufacturing or how we were doing it. And he's had ideas for a while, and it's like, how can we make this even better? We know that our vibration numbers have been the best, and we test them every year against competitors, and it's like, how do we get that next little step? You're talking about a really small percentage of vibration that the shooter's feeling, but how do we improve it even more, and how do we improve the sound? Because for us as hunters, we want our rig to be as quiet as possible, and you also don't want your bow to beat you up when you're shooting it. So, this is an idea that Matt came to us and we had talked about before, but he's like, I really want to try and get this going this year. And Mark kind of joked, he's like, that's a 2024 option. I looked at him and smiled, and I was like, I think that's 2023, man. I think we're gonna make it happen. And so we went off, we bought some 3D printers. We started prototyping molds, and we were pouring rubbers. It was funny, actually. Have you guys ever heard of plastisol? It's the material that people pour bass baits out of. And so when they're making their own custom bass fishing baits or ice fishing crappie stuff, people cut their own molds and they'll pour it. So we bought some plastisol, we cut some aluminum molds. We were kind of making anything work that we could, and we were molding it in house. It's something we've never done before, but it was the only way we could prototype this. And we got several iterations and just kept going for it. What durometer feels better? What thickness feels the best? Where do we need to flare out at? How tight does the fit need to be? We played with all of it, but it was awesome. And I think that speaks volumes to the team here at Mathews, as a whole, our machine shop, our engineering department, our owner willing to take a chance, and then all the guys here being able to rally and cut parts and start learning how to mold and figure that out in-house and move quick enough to make it happen. And, when we first started testing it, some of the high-speed videos we have and just the sound levels and vibration levels we tested, it blew all of us away. I think it was better than our highest expectations for it in terms of, we thought it would do something, but it really, really took it to the next level for us.
And if you would, John, explain, I kind of used what you taught me about taking a limb out of phase at full draw, letting it come back into phase. If you wouldn't mind, what's the geeky terminology? What's the professional engineering terminology? Why is that important?
Well, if you think, when your limb is a solid fiberglass limb, there's a lot of energy in your bow. When you shoot your arrow, all that energy has to go somewhere. Well, it's easiest with an illustration, but that limb is flexing. There's kind of a wave going through that limb. Well, now when it's two separate limbs, I guess I should take a step back. When that one limb is waving through, that it's in phase with itself. So it's just going to kind of keep rippling until it's done. Well, if you put that piece of rubber in between the two limbs and they're rippling at different frequencies or out of phase with each other, that rubber will try and slow them down as fast as possible to bring them back in phase and dampen that even quicker. I think it makes a lot of sense with an illustration.
Kind of
you
that.
have two things rubbing against each other, but it makes sense that the two things are going to dampen quicker than just the one that has no reason to stop.
That rubber's there to kind of correct both limbs, essentially. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So
okay.
It's able to. You're going to get that with any bow, any style, and it's happening after the arrow is gone. So it doesn't have an effect on the performance of the shot as much as it does just heard noise and felt vibration for the shooter. So it's more of a shooter experience thing, but it's pretty incredible how much faster it does, touching the entire surface of the limb. So the whole limb is working to really deaden itself. And
then also quiet.
Yeah,
it's crazy. We had 4 or 5 carryover bows from last year. So when we got the demo promo package in, we literally, one guy would stand here and one guy would stand there 3 feet apart, and you'd shoot, and you could tell, you could hear noise. Like you say, it's kind of a two-way street. So you have there's absolutely no hand shock for the shooter. Makes it more enjoyable, but also quiet, which is helping you, because we've all heard they jumped the string, or the sound of the bow going off. Well, if you can make quiet quieter, air quotes, you're benefiting everything. And a big question we don't have, there's always consumers that will wait and kind of wait and see, and then wait and see. And the other day I asked a really, really good customer of ours, Dan, and I deal with him all the time. And he shoots a ton for 3D. He's been to Africa last year, shoots a ton of whitetails, and he's like, "Oh, I'm just going to wait and see if that rubber holds up." And I kind of looked at him
like
and
he's treating it like a new pickup, like a new engine or something. Like, I'm just going to let them figure out the first year issues. Well,
and I kind of looked at him and said, "Dude, it's figured out. It is. Yeah. You guys have tested it cold. You've tested it hot. It's not doing anything."
Yeah, to the extremes. I mean, we've had obviously on every hunt this fall. It's been all over the world. But even before that, we'd bake it in an oven at 200 degrees for a couple hours and then shoot it. We'd throw it in the deep freeze for a week and then shoot it. And it reacts as well, if not better than any bow we've ever tested under any of those conditions. That rubber is flexing with the limb, but the limb itself is doing the work and the rubber's just dampening. So it's not it's not something that you'd want to do, but technically your bow could perform without the rubber in there. So you need it in there for safety reasons, but we have done it without it. And I think, the rubber can only help. There's not a possibility that we've seen or tested that it could negate any performance that you have out of your bow.
It is it's extremely enjoyable to shoot. It's very, and what I like it as a bow technician, down on the end of the limb, the ear, or what we call the press ear. It's a little bit beefier because we have a little bit wider profile, holding the end of that together. It's phenomenal going in and out of a press, like super easy. As we move down from the limbs, okay, bridge lock came out. We had from the introduction of the verdicts, we had the inline rest, the dovetail on the back of the rest. That was like the first little preview of this, and it's huge. It makes your rest incredibly light. It's very, very solid. It's a 2-piece fit.
Streamline.
Yeah. And then last year we got introduced to what the bridge lock sight is. If you don't know what that is, or if you're running a Mathews and don't have a sight inside the riser, you might as well be shooting in the 70s because you're missing something huge. But then all of a sudden, you guys spoiled us with something that has not, stabilizers have been around forever. You guys have made your own stabilizers. A couple of years ago, you came out with the Flatline, extremely quiet vibration, whatever you want to say on that. It has the EHS, harmonic dampening system, in that. But then you redesigned the whole cart. Like, everything is different. Not only can we put the stabilizer in the riser, but it's a different stabilizer.
Yeah, that's kind of a passionate subject for this team up here. We've had sales and marketing and outside people for a while asking, are you guys going to make a new stabilizer? Are you going to make a new stabilizer? And the answer's always been, well, it needs to be better. We don't just want to make a new stabilizer to make a new stabilizer. And, the idea was, like you said, bridge locks kind of evolved and everything was getting closer to the bow and tighter. And then we went through the riser and it was like, we could do that with the stabilizer as well. And we thought about it, like, what are the benefits of that? Stiffer connection point, weight on the stabilizer where you want it. It balances so much better. The balance point is better. And with that stiffer connection, we can have an aluminum bar that's stiffer than a lot of carbon tubes. And by the way, it's adjustable. It's the first ever tunable stabilizer. 1/2-inch increments, you can go in and out, and also storage. That first flew to Alaska this year with the stabilizer. I left my front bar and my back bar on my bow and just slid them in and threw it in my case. For the first time ever, I didn't have to take my stabilizer off. So it kind of evolved into this product that was better in every way, in our opinion. Everything we tested, it was an improvement. It wasn't just another stabilizer. It was different, and it was better, and it was, it was an exciting new innovation that, a product that hasn't changed in a long time. People have put different weights out there, different high modulus carbon tubes, but no one's never done it this way. And now that we can, I think it opens up the door for a lot of possibilities.
And I know Dan can vouch for this as well. Me coming from a target background, Dan has shot stabilizers from all over and done everything. We personally, as a management team here at the shop, like, we got together and like, okay, how are we going to pitch this? How do we, because it's an investment. How are we're going to have to sell our shoes off to do this? And honestly, I mean, we talked to you off air, but we don't have to hardly do anything. If anything, we say stronger connection point and lay it out like, okay, if you take a carbon tube, high mod or not, and then you put an aluminum sleeve over it, and then you put a stainless steel stud in there. Like that's 3 to 6 different connection points that can either become weak, or they can create vibration, or they can even dramatically cause noise. You say that, by the time you're done with a spiel, they've already grabbed the stabs and put them on a counter.
Kind of sell themselves, yeah.
Yeah.
Even like the weight system is pretty neat. I don't know if you can explain that at all, but
Yeah, absolutely. The with, you know, we talk about the attachment points of the bow being different, but with that, you know, everyone's had, if you add more weight to a stabilizer, you get a long stud up front. And we were like, well, since we don't have this carbon tube to run the stud into, one, it's wasted weight, it's inefficient, and if I need a different one depending on how many weights I put on there, it's just not ideal for this new bar. So we needed to come up with a completely new system for adding weights to the stabilizer as well. So the interlink weight system is pretty awesome. It's all done with one screw in the head of the stabilizer. And so what it does is that screw from the bottom has a cone on it, and it drives, it meets another cone at a 45, which drives a pin through every single weight and engages all of the dovetails. So hopefully I can do a good job explaining that, but basically each weight has a dovetail cut into it, and they will slide onto each other, and you can stack them up to 14 weights. And when you tighten that screw on the end, it basically engages every single dovetail. So it's tight. So one screw does it all. It's better because you don't need to, if you had 10 weights, you don't need a longer stud. You just add more weights. You don't need to have a long stud in there for a guy that only shoots one weight. He doesn't need to have the stud screwed in. He doesn't need that hanging in his carbon tube to shoot a lighter stabilizer that fits well with his setup. So it's really customizable. It's super adjustable, and it gives options out there for just about every shooter and style of shooting that they like to do.
And another key point on that, I run notorious for running a 12 to 15 inch front bar. Like I really like a long bar, get the weight away and down. I angle it at 8 degree. But a quick disconnect, even from Mathews, which you guys teamed up with Shrewd, that's an awesome quick disconnect, 8 degree or straight in the past. And then you have a slug that we put on that. Every once in a while, you know, because like when I transfer it in my case, whenever I got to take the long stabilizer off, put it on, or if you're shooting a little bit and it comes a little bit loose, it'll ride up. The biggest thing that I can tell you, one, I'll never have to take the stabilizer off, so that weakens. But people are saying, well, okay, well, if I bought just a regular stabilizer and it's longer than 6, 7, 8 inches, I need a quick disconnect. Well, there you're in it to a $30, $35. Mm-hmm. Get rid of your quick disconnect, get a bridge lock stabilizer, and you've just eliminated 2 weak points and also inconvenience. So it's a win-win. And like, and I don't know what it is about the aluminum, because I'm kind of we have a Hooter shooter, and we can test things on that. But as far as feel and weight, for some reason, I'm getting away with running less weight on my 12-inch bridge lock, which we just got, by the way. And
yeah, those just started shipping, right?
Yeah, we just literally last week and then the beginning of this week. So we do have some for customers listening, but I'm running less weight and getting the same hold. And a lot of that has to do with Mathews, the riser configuration. It's an extremely long riser for a 29-inch axle bow, an extremely long riser for a 33-inch axle bow, and that entailed helps you hold. It has nothing to do with a little bit to do with your string angle, but the forgiveness and the stability platform of a bow doesn't really come from the axle. It comes from your riser length. And I think you hit a home run, and now we've lightened up the riser just a little bit on the Phase 4 this year. So overall aspect is just, it's killer. For guys that are average shooters that shoot the bow hunter class in leagues, like we've seen their scores go up the last couple of years, shooting a 33, it's almost like you could consider it a hybrid bow. For the tack shooters, the 3D shooters, even indoor, shooting a 33, it's the same riser length as if it had like a TRX 36.
Yeah, that we compare them all the time in house. We're like, man, this bow is awesome. Why does it shoot so good? And you'll go set it on a target bow, and you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. The target bows are great, and they definitely fit the niche. But for a guy who's used to a hunting platform, that bow is as stable as you'll find. And just to hit one more point, I think you've kind of hit it on the stabilizer. You had the quick disconnect. Well, it's weight in the wrong area again. So you talk about shorter stabilizer, being able to run it with less weight and having a good balance. Well, that balance point's improved so much, especially if you're used to using a quick disconnect. It might bump your stabilizer out another inch, let's say, but you're adding all that weight at the wrong part. You want the weight as far out away from your bow as possible. And so when you're adding weight closer and closer to your riser and to your hand, it's not really helping anything with your float or your balance or your aiming of your bow. So I think the light bar and the good attachment point and light attachment point, putting weight where you need it, guys are finding they can get away with running less weight, a lighter overall setup, and shoot it even better.
And Dan, let's let's talk about the cams real quick, because they've been out for 4 or 5 years now. Verdicts,
the switch weight series, yeah.
Cross-centric, can't find. Yeah.
Verdicts, yeah.
Explain to everybody what you can do with one cam, one bow, not only weight but draw length in the mod.
All right, so
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, are you going to go on it, Dan?
Nope, that's you.
All right. Obviously switch weight's been around for a few years now, and it's good for a lot of reasons. One, for a customer, for a shop, resale, that bow will fit anybody, from 60 to 75 pound peak weight, from 25 and a half to 30 inch draw length. Did I say that right? 26 to 30. Sorry, I know I'm in front of me. But, and what we do with those individual mods is we're efficient at every draw length and every draw weight. So that's unique to us for sure. It's a really big deal, and something that we probably don't talk about enough is all bow manufacturers advertise their specs at 70 pounds, 30 inches. Well, what about the guy who shoots 26 and a half inch draw length at 62 pounds? Is that a good bow for him? In a lot of cases, no. Our bows, you have a custom mod just for that. So if you're storing as much energy as you could be and shooting it efficiently, compared to if you had an adjustable mod and backing out your limb bolts, you won't be storing near the amount of energy that you should be at that draw length and draw weight. So instead of, correlating to the 30-inch guy at 70 pounds, you're going to be, I don't want to just make up numbers, but 5 to 10 feet per second slower than maybe you should be. And that's a big deal when you're talking about, arrow weights and what game you're hunting and all these things. If you're talking about losing 5 to 10 feet per second at a shorter draw length, that's a huge deal, and something that we probably don't talk about enough, because that's more the average guy, right? Not everyone's shooting a 30-inch draw at 70 pounds. That's not typical. That's what we advertise specs at, but I don't know a lot of people who shoot that exact spec. So it's good to have every single guy and person kind of custom catered to, to have your bow as good as it possibly can be at your specs.
And it's absolutely customizable. And I like what you said. So the big thing, especially the further we get west of the river, you hear the big meat eater guys and the Cameron Haynes guys and like all these, you got to shoot 80 pounds. You got to shoot 80 pounds. I'm here to tell you, I've shot 77 pounds since my VXR 31 and a half. 75 pounds is just as efficient or the same as 80-pound limbs. And it's still as smooth as butter with that cam. So if you're a high poundage, you want very fast, or you shoot a heavy arrow, so you need the speed, like it's easily attainable. Now let's say I take the same bow, I'm a one bow customer, and I got turkey hunting coming up in 2 months. I don't need to shoot 75 pounds. I can run into my shop, or if you own the mods, and switch it out, and I'm shooting the same draw length at 60 pounds. All I got to do is resight in my pins, and the bow is just as efficient. The brace height has not changed. My peep height has not changed. Nothing dynamically has changed on the bow except for the way the mod is machined for poundage. As far as an engineer, that's something you guys should be extremely proud of.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know how, we'll go as much detail as you guys will take here, but I don't know if you guys are familiar with ever looking at a draw force curve.
Mm-hmm.
When the bow's been pulled back, how much energy is stored, basically how much energy the archer is putting into it. Well, the biggest thing with switch weight, and it's hard to show this, but you want to store as much energy as possible within reason. You want a good shooter experience. But when you back your limb bolts out, that curve tips, and you're actually not able to store as much energy. And that's a big thing. You might not always lose efficiency, but you're losing the stored energy in the draw. So you're starting in the hole, several foot-pounds of energy, and that equates to, a handful of feet per second. So your bow could be as efficient, but you never have a chance to hit the speeds that you want to. And that's just with backing the limb bolts out. So having a custom mod is a huge deal to adjust the weight. And, people always think you lose efficiency when you back the limb bolts out, but a lot of times you're losing stored energy as well. And
now, for the last couple of years, we could take a 60-pound mod, put it in, and let's say a lady or an older gentleman can only handle about 45 to 52. So then we would back out the limb bolts, and it did work. It wasn't, like you say, we weren't really robbing efficiency, but that stored energy was down. But now all we do is we say, okay, instead of getting a Phase 4, look at this image. It is a Phase 4 riser, 29-inch riser, and it maxes out at 50, 47, 43, 40 pounds. Now, if you need to go below 40, we can do that, but, we don't really have to. That the image is huge, especially here. I don't know if it's this way, when we talk about eastern Wisconsin and central Minnesota, northern Iowa, and the Dakotas, we have some older gentlemen that they don't want to get rid of the vertical bow. They don't want to go into a mission crossbow or something of like that. Now we have an option that's going to be far more superior for accuracy, consistency, stored energy, the image that you guys came out with.
Yeah, you nailed it again, Wade. One reference that hits, fairly close to home. It's Mark's dad, who you talked to Mark quite a bit, but Mark's dad didn't want to pull as much weight anymore, but he definitely didn't want to get into a crossbow quite yet. And we came out with the image kind of at the perfect time for him, and he loves it. It fits that guy, and I bet you within the next year or two, my dad will be shooting that bow. And it's awesome because as an archer, you're passionate about that, and a lot of guys fight as long as they can to not give that up, right? So this bow that fits down to lower draw weights and without losing the efficiency is a home run. It's awesome. It fits that guy perfect. And even for guys, you mentioned turkey hunting, I think it would be an awesome turkey hunting rig because you don't need much more than 50 pounds to go shoot a turkey. So I think it's an awesome bow for that. And it's a huge deal for getting the best performance out of a lower poundage bow that you never really had the option to before.
And then you can get it in all colors. It's basically just an add-on to, it's not labeled Phase 4, it's called the image. We have them here. You can shoot them, play with them. Your thoughts on the image, Dan?
So far, it's been good.
It has.
Kids, women.
I think we've sold, I don't know, a dozen of them. One lady who, she was kind of I don't want a woman's bow. Well, then don't shoot a woman's bow. I mean, the Prima is kind of labeled as that, but I know young men that are shooting Primas and that, but now we have an image.
Right.
And then actually, I think she's shooting 52 pounds at 27-inch draw, and she actually could step up her arrow weight a little bit. Tunability is really, really cool. As we're talking about tunability, I'm going to switch, instead of talking about the Engage grip right now, the top hat system. Sometimes I think we take it for granted, but this is a good time to get it out there for people. The days of moving your rest, micro adjusting your rest, they're kind of, it's still there. Sometimes you need a click or two here and there, but a top hat system and a pro shop that knows how the top hat system works essentially is revolutionized the way you tune a bow, from not only through paper, but also bare shaft tuning, broadhead tuning. You can clean a lot of the tuning up mess with the top hat system.
Definitely. I think what you said about the micro tuning your rest it's still there, but not as much. You know, everyone here, we set our rest straight down the middle, right where it's marked on the riser to go. And it's my absolute last resort. I haven't moved the rest on a bow in probably 4 years. You know, I don't like touching my rest. I'd rather use my top hats and tune it that way. And you know, you've got 3 different sets of top hats with a bunch of different combinations. And the best part for me is you do it once, you set it, and you forget about it. You don't have to keep playing with it, and you know it's not going to move because it's in a fixed position. I think with a shop that knows what they're doing, it's a pretty quick change. You know, a pretty simple way to look at it is you move the cam towards the tear. You got left tear, you move the cam to the left. And it's a pretty foolproof system. And once you set it, you're good to go. And it's a pretty awesome setup, like you said. And you do have to put the bow on the press, but you guys can speak to this. It doesn't take much time to switch the top hat. And once you've done it, you know exactly what change you probably need to make. It's probably a 1 or 2 change adjustment for you guys. And then that customer's set and they're good for as long as they own that bow.
We timed it, didn't we? It was
Yeah.
like 40 seconds.
So rewind a little bit and Dan will talk about what we did. There was some dillweed that put out a video against 3 other.
What did you call him?
A dillweed.
All right. Just making sure.
Yeah. So they're like, oh, this bow company takes 15 seconds. This company takes 38 seconds. Well, to switch out top hats takes 35 minutes. And I was like, did he just say minutes?
He's got a
it's a video.
Video, and it's like, what are you doing?
He time lapsed. He basically disassembled the whole. He took the strings off, and I'm like, oh my god. So then Dan did it. We should have videoed it, but we're more professional than that. So it's not that. It's just done.
Yeah.
Top hat. That's the way you tune your bow. And I'll repeat this because we have to. It's fixed. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and it's
never
not
moving.
It's not spacers either. It actually slips inside of the limb. Think of a spacer, but it looks like a mini top hat.
It does. Yep.
Slips inside the limb, and it's
so
simple,
it's in the
easy.
limb over the axle, spacing that cam right or left.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be in a set. That's another thing I'm going to ask you. So per cam, they have to be specific. The top hats are marked with lines either on the bottom, 1 and 2, middle 1 and 2, or top 1 and 2. They have to match each other. But correct me if I'm wrong, John, the top cam does not have to match the bottom cam.
Correct. And I think that's a pretty common misconception is you have to match each other up, but you can put any different combination on the top or bottom. So, you know, the 3 different sets, they need to go together, but you can do more than just flip those sets. A lot of people think of top hats, I can just flip these. Well, you can do that, but that generally is a pretty big move. You know, if you have the smallest and biggest top hat combination together and you flip them, you probably made a way too big a move than you needed to in tuning your bow. So having all 3 options, both the top and bottom cam, gives you more than enough range of tunability for just about every archer.
Yeah, there's 12 different combinations. You can move the cams, top and bottom. So you take your top 2, let's say you had fats, flip them, there's 2, 4, 6, and then 2, 4, 6 on the bottom. So they just have to match each other in the cam, but they don't have to. And when I say, okay, now I'm making this confusing. It has to be a specific distance, 0.175. Is that, I believe, or 0.175 distance.
Yep.
That's your spacing. But anyways, They don't have to match. The top cam doesn't have to match the bottom cam. So when you get it out of your box and you're looking at it and you're like, oh my God, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. Let's rewind to the cam real quick because you're an engineer and I got to ask this. What is the difference between 80 and 85% besides the way it feels on the back wall?
It's a little bit different than stored energy. So you get about 1.5 to 2 feet per second faster with the 80% let off. And then it really just comes down to shooter preference too, of what feel you like, what holding weight you're going for, where you're hunting. If certain states have different laws that you need to be 80% let off. But with the 80% mod, you'll store just a little bit more energy and be just slightly faster. So if you're a guy who wants every foot per second, those would be the mods that you want to try.
And does it change your draw length ever so slightly?
No, so not at all. So that's a good point, Wade. And another thing with having a custom mod for let-offs, weights, and draw lengths, that's something we're pretty passionate about here. If you have an adjustable mod and you change the let-off on that mod, you're actually in turn changing the draw length, which is just something that we will never be okay with here. I think it's a big deal. You know, I think adjusting your draw length is something that is a pretty big deal for each shooter, and you might completely change your form or completely change how you're aiming and not even know why. You're like, I just changed my let-off. Why does everything feel different? Well, you're actually changing your draw length with an adjustable mod, as opposed to when we make an 80% let-off mod, it's the exact same draw length as an 85% let-off mod.
And that's because it's a machined mod. You can control those tolerances.
Yep.
We're not taking a set screw out and moving. Like, we're literally, there's an 1/8 inch. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah, you're actually adjusting the mod stop on a lot of adjustable mods, which, if you think about it, you're just pulling the bow a little bit further to get to that let off. Because it is dropping off, you're just pulling it further to get past 80% and hitting 85, which is okay for some people, but not for us.
All right. Dan and I have shot fixed quivers forever. And I really mean that when I say forever. Until last year. You guys came out with the low pro detachable and also the low pro fixed. That low pro detachable is the cat's meow when it comes to a quiver. I will say it hands down, and I love every company out in archery around the world. There is no better quiver than that.
No.
I mean, where did that come? Because you guys have had Q-Light quivers and HD quivers forever, and everything was awesome, but you don't now. I mean, what's the ratio you guys are seeing between fixed and low pro detachable? Can you shoot with the low pro on? Give us a little rundown of the quiver.
The ratio in terms of like sales numbers you're asking, or what are you?
Sure. Yeah. What do you guys see? What are you shooting in the shops? Did you guys you switched Dan and I? Even Jake, was Jake a fixed?
Mm-hmm.
He shot a fixed quiver forever. But did you guys switch? Have you always had a removable quiver?
It's funny that the engineering team up here is pretty passionate about fixed quivers. And so that was the first one that was developed, but just about everyone else in this company loves the detachable. And I've got a couple hunting stories where I've been with a buddy and he takes his quiver off to shoot, and it's a Western hunt, and he needs a follow-up shot, and he's got to run back 20 yards to grab his quiver. And so ever since then, I'm shooting a fixed quiver, and regardless of how good the detachable one is, which it is. And we sell, I don't know the exact numbers, so I won't say them, but it is a higher percentage detachable, and it's definitely, we feel, the best detachable out there, and it's awesome. But I just personally, I like to have my arrows with me at all times, just in case something happens unexpectedly. But in terms of travel and adjustability and shooting, if you're in a whitetail stand, you can hang your quiver up. I get all that stuff. So there's definitely a great spot for the detachable. But as an engineering group, we got pretty passionate, and it's kind of a heated discussion around here about which one's better and for what reason.
And then, if for people that have never experienced or have it on, it is detachable. You can take it off. It's one of the easiest to take off. But honestly, it's a detachable two-piece. I mean, if you look at the mounting hard, we have a bow sitting in front of us, our demo bow that's all, completely rigged out.
Yeah.
So we're looking at it as we're talking to you, John. Like,
Yep.
so the connection points are extremely solid, very tight tolerances. It's connected in two parts. So we don't have the age-old arrow swag when you shoot, because the cradle's always up high. Like when you shoot, your fletchings go brrrr. That's gone. You can adjust this slightly, for arrow length on that. But it's a two-piece fixed detachable kind of overall. Huge,
and I think,
huge thing.
I think to get into a little bit of how it was developed is we made the fixed quiver first because our goal was to make the tightest quiver we could to the bow because of bridge lock. And so we made that quiver, and we all decided, the team, we knew it, we needed a removable version of that. Well, we had just the brackets mounted on the bow from the fixed quiver, and we're like, man, wouldn't it be awesome if this is all that was left once you took your quiver off and it was detachable? And I was like, yep, that's a good starting point. Let's do that. And so from there, we had to come up with how does it attach, and there's a bunch of versions and trial and error and fit and everything. But like you said, that those machine parts on that have the pretty dang tight tolerances. It's as solid as you can get it. And, as opposed to older style quivers holding just at the top of the arrow, you're less vibration, better feel, better arrow containment, all of that quiver has. And by the way, when you pull it off the bow, it still kind of looks kind of cool, in my opinion. So it's a pretty awesome all-in-one quiver for the guy that's used to taking his quiver off, but it also fits tight enough to the bow that if you want to shoot with it on, you can. It's not an awkward thing to do. So it kind of gives the archer flexibility to try whatever they might want.
And the thing about Mathews, as we continue on with all of if you wanted to completely build the most efficient hunting system, we sometimes we forget about talking about the SCS kit. We forget about talking about the SAS, the stay of field system. The SCS kit, I think, is a must. And yes, it's easy for me to say this because I get a discount and I can have it on every bow. But for the simplicity of pulling the bow up in a tree stand, there's no better system. I don't have to tie to the cam. I don't have to tie to the limb. And people say, well, it only takes 5 seconds. Well, yes, this only takes 2 seconds to flip my rope over that and pull it up exactly straight so the bow's balanced. And then when I let it down, I just go, my arrows are always going down, fletching's up. I just flip to the bottom one. The sling, there are slings. You guys make one that will cover the cam and the strings and everything. And if, let's say, you're on a horseback ride to elk camp and you want to have everything protected, absolutely. Or even if you're backpacking out, but having the sling system with the SCS kit, easily rip it off, take a shot. You can shoot with it on if you had to, I guess, if you wrapped it around your quiver or something. But little things that Mathews have done, and they're machined in, they're not in the way, they're hidden, they're nice, they're clean. The way that you look at a bow, all the lines run together. Everything down to, we don't talk about the stave field system. We should do that. We really, really overanalyzed it last year. Especially, we kind of catered to the out west guys, or like you were in Alaska in your caribou. If something happened on your string, let's say you didn't shoot one on the first day, and you got a little cut on your string or your D-loop because of humidity change, and your peep is now, a quarter off. With the stay of field system, it's not just for changing the strings and the cables, but you can rotate your peep. If you need it, if your bow's out of time, you can literally put a twist in a cable without having to press.
Absolutely.
It's a must. I hate to say this as far as like being a salesman, but it's like a $30 lifesaver. Mm-hmm. Where can you buy it?
That's exactly what we call it, Wade. We call it $30 insurance policy.
And if you're a guy that wants another set of strings, get us another set of strings set up perfectly. If it ever did happen.
Or the next time you change out your strings and cables, just keep that old string. Don't take out the peep side and leave the D loop on, and it's a very easy process. You back out the limbs, a couple turns, and you just follow there's a QR code you can scan right on your phone and watch the video, or we can take 5 minutes and run you through it on how it works. Life changer on that. The engaged limb legs. Yeah. We can't keep them in stock. Turkey hunting. Yeah, it's awesome.
turkey hunting, ground blind, even the practice, like Mark said, a year ago he shot leagues with it on the whole entire time. You're not banging around your bow. You're keeping your cam out of the grass and out of the mud and out of the wetness and all of that. And it's super light. I don't think you can get a better bow stand than an Engaged limb legs. They make the slim, which fits on the Prima, but the standard is for every other bow, right, John?
Yep. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, thank you for all the kind words about Mathews. But that product itself is a funny one, because once it got developed, that's what fan favorite around here. Everyone shoots them on all the time, and like, I can't believe we ever shot without these engagement legs on. Why wouldn't we have these? So it's, once you have them, it's hard to ever give them up, for sure.
And the only time you got to take them off is put it in the press or put it in your case. That's the only.
Super easy to take them off too. Yep.
Yeah. We have the ability to pimp a bow out if you are a color guru. The EHS, they make the rubber dampener colored. You guys brought in white this year, gray, granite.
Yeah.
Ambush.
Yeah.
So you can really, like, your stabilizers each have one. The bow has one. They come in a 4-pack, 2-pack.
2-pack.
2-pack. So I mean, you can color it out as much as you want. You can get color sleeves for the quiver, which is, I don't do it, but you can. Mm-hmm. I love it. We're gonna put you on the spot, John. Now, we want to know what your setup is. Obviously, you started hunting with it before we did. Actually, we had ours very, very fast, so it wasn't. I've hunted with mine. Mm-hmm. Jack scored with his right away. But give your. And I don't want you to say, "Oh, I shoot a Phase 4 29." Like, I want to know. I want you to
arrow
geek us up.
setups,
Arrow sight, everything. Rest.
Oh, that's a whole nother podcast, guys. Getting into arrow weight.
Well, okay.
Heated debate.
Just tell me what you shoot.
Yeah, we're not going to pick you apart. Just
Mark already told me what you
what I
shoot.
do is best, obviously. All right. Well, Phase 4 29. I've always been a shorter axle guy. I just grew up. I think my first Mathews was a DXT, and just haven't really ever shot a long axle bow. But I got the Low Pro fixed quiver on, an Excel landslide that I custom rigged up.
You still there, bud? Yep, there you are.
Oh, what?
No, you're good. We're good. We're listening. No. We're jotting this all down so we can copy it.
Okay, and then I got a 10-inch bridge lock stabilizer on the front and an 8-inch on the back. I normally don't shoot a back bar, but this year with the new bars, 1, balance, and 2, vibration and feel. It feels awesome with the back bar. I love how it sits, and I love there's nothing fully set up bow shot vibration. So with that, I got the regular Mathews grip on. I know a lot of guys throw some side plates and some tape, but I like our normal grip. And then arrow-wise, I shoot Victory Rip TKO 350s with 3-fletch tack vanes, 2.75, nocturnal lighted nocks, the universal fit. Not the new ones. I like the old, not the switch. I like the ones with the normal button on. And then I shoot Rage tri-pans, and I also use Iron Will's hit insert system and their collars. So I kind of got a custom. I don't shoot I love Victory's arrows, but I don't shoot all their components. But I love the Iron Will hit system. It's the toughest and best weight combination that I've found for sure for my setup. And I'm also shooting the 350 spine arrows at 75 pounds, 29-inch draw. So it might be underspined according to a lot of charts, but what we found is our bows in recent years have kind of liked a little bit weaker spine shaft. They're easier to tune. They're more flexible that way. And I could get 300s to tune out of this bow, but I bet you I could also get 400s to tune out of this bow, which no arrow chart would ever tell you to do that. But it's
each bow is just different.
Yeah, that's we dabbled on that a little bit, and we've seen it firsthand. Dano, since basically he just talked about your bow, you might as well keep going.
Smart man.
Keep going down that, then I'll talk about mine, and then we'll wrap it up. What are you shooting?
Yeah, so Phase 4 29.
What color?
Black riser, first light limbs.
Okay.
10-inch front bar, 8-inch back. Integrate rest. Garmin sight.
Mm-hmm.
Detachable.
That has the bridge lock adapter. Yeah.
And a RIP TKO 350.
Low pro detach or fixed?
I detach. Yeah.
You shoot the Engage grip?
Right now I got nothing. I'm just wrapping it.
How about SCS kit?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Do you use a sling?
Last year I did.
Yeah.
Because I had my.
Oh, that's
bike.
right.
Yeah.
Yep. Rambo guy. All right. I'll be the different dude of the category. I shoot a Phase 4 33, elevated 2 riser, black limbs. I like that. I shoot 75-pound mods, 29-inch draw. Low pro detachable. I shoot side plates with a grip tape. That's just kind of, I pick up my TRX. It's the same exact profile when I switch back and forth. I run a 12-inch bridge lock with 3 ounces, and then I don't know what that end cap weighs. Probably 1 3/4 ounces, John. I don't know if you guys know the.
It should be 2 ounces.
2 ounces.
Damper.
Okay.
Yep.
So actually, I have 5 ounces out front, and then I have a, I don't know, 8 or 10-inch bar in the back.
8.
Yeah. With 6 extra weights, so 8 total on the back. I like a heavy bow. I really do. It's stable. I have the SCS kit, Engage limbs when I'm practicing or in the turkey blind, which I don't, that bow is, there's no problem with me shooting at a blind. I do have the Ultra Rest on that one. Yeah, I guess I shoot a Hamsky peep, Raptor peep. That's what it's set up. Got the old zebras on there. Working good. I my arrow set up, so that bow actually is not set up. Strings are on it and the stuff's kind of on it, but I'm waiting for the RIP SS from Victory. So RIP TKO, but it's a RIP SS stainless steel. It'll be a little bit heavier arrow build for that. Yeah, I don't know about the inserts. I'll go back and forth between 2 different broadheads, either Grim Reaper, Pro Blade, 3-blade, or a Rage.
Mm-hmm.
Tri-pan as well. I don't shoot tack vanes. I did this year, but I'm not shooting them. I'm going to go back to AAE on my vanes. 4-fletch probably.
I love AAE stuff too. And I love these tack vanes, but I have a problem fletching them. Sometimes they're tougher to get to stick. I think because they're so stiff.
Mm-hmm.
But once I've got them fletched, I love the stiffness and how they fly. But AAEs are the easiest fletching vanes I've ever tried, and I love how those fly too. I just was looking for something a little bit lighter in the back of my arrow, and
yep,
these tack vanes are a great combination if you can get them to stick.
We've always shot nocturnals. This year we might be trying something new. That's for another podcast. Or if you see our rigs, you'll see it. But John, it's been awesome, dude. I appreciate it. We just kind of wanted to nail down some questions. You answered everything fully. I don't think there's anything else, Dan. Do you?
I don't think so. Johnny, appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I had a blast. It was good to talk to some fellow hunters, and glad things are going well for you guys.
It is. We have all of the bows, left hand, right hand, everything that you could ever want for demoing. Come in and shoot them. We got the Image. We also have the Prima from a couple of years that's been out. We have all the gadgets and gadgets. If you want the bridge lock sight from Mathews, we have it. If we have every other connector that you can run from Black Gold, we have the bridge lock, Garmin, like Dan was saying, Spot Hog, Excel. Yeah, we have it all, and it's all here for you guys to come enjoy. John, on behalf of that, thank you very much. And Dan as well, sitting in this morning. Great podcast. Come in and shoot them at any of our locations, Waite Park, Brainerd, or right here in Rogers. You can also check all this stuff out online. You can build a bow, bring us the URL, and we can send it off for an order. Order turnaround is exceptionally fast. Thank you, Mathews, for that. So guys aren't waiting 6 to 10, 15 weeks. It's a couple of weeks, and you have what you have. And it's good, especially since we're in indoor season. You get to know your bow a little bit. With that being said, everybody take it easy. We'll see you on down the road.
Thank you for listening to Archery Country Podcast.